Good afternoon, all. So, very shortly, we are going to commence. So, and Honorable Minister will be coming very shortly, very soon.
All participants are required to switch on their videos, please. All participants, all students are required to switch on their videos. All participants, please switch on their videos.
Good afternoon, all. We will be starting shortly. Another couple of minutes. We are waiting for everyone to join. So another couple of minutes. We'll be joining. We'll be starting shortly. Thank you. Please stay online.
All are requested to switch off. Put your mobile.
Morning all. Sir, with your permission, we will start the webinar. Good morning all. Honorable Union Minister of Labour and Employment and Youth Affairs and Sports, Honorable Union Minister of State for Labour and Employment and Ministry of MSME, respected Secretary, Labour and Employment, distinguished dignitaries, and speakers from United Nations India and international labour organizations. Colleagues, young students participating in webinar today. I am pleased to extend a warm welcome to all of you today to today's webinar on employment opportunities for youth in international organizations. This event is being organized by Ministry of Labour and Employment, Government of India, in collaboration with University Grant Commission, United Nations India, and the International Labour Organization. More than 1,200 students from over 40 colleges of Delhi NCR from law, business, management, and other relevant disciplines are participating in this webinar, which is the first such event being organized by us, and many more will follow. The objective of this webinar is to increase awareness among the young Indians about the various employment and training opportunities available in international and multilateral organizations, particularly within the UN system. We are with us today senior officers from various UN agencies, including ILO, who will share their insights on the career options which are available in United Nations and the skills and qualifications required to avail these opportunities. We will also listen from the young Indians about their experiences and journeys of working with United Nations. We will delve into diverse avenues available, such as internship, volunteering programs, application processes, online skilling and certifications, and much more. To the students joining this event today, I would like to say that this exposure would empower you to aim higher and broaden your horizon when it comes to the career options. I am happy to share that we have received more than 200 questions from the students, which signals the excitement among them towards these global opportunities. We have tried to address all issues raised by the students in our session today. We would also ask our experts to respond to few selected questions towards the end of the webinar. Now, to start our inaugural session, I invite Mr. Swambi Sharp, the UN Resident Coordinator in India, a visionary leader. Mr. Sharp has been instrumental in driving collaborative efforts for sustainable development across the globe. Over to you, Mr. Sharp.
Thank you so much. Honorable Union Minister, Dr. Mandavia, Honorable Minister of State, Srimati Karnalaji, respected Secretary Dara, colleagues from the Ministry of Labor and Employment, colleagues from the International Labour Organization and other UN agencies who are here, and most of all, to all of the young people, the students online, gathered from an incredible 42 universities and colleges, 1,200 registered as mentioned. It's a great honor and privilege to greet you today. आप सभी को UN family की तरफ से मेरा नमस्कार to all. मुझे श्रम शक्ति भवन में आकर बहुत खुशी हुई on behalf of the UN system in India and as representative of the UN Secretary General. Dear young friends and colleagues, as we know, the world is facing all kinds of challenges everywhere we look. The news, you open up your device and you read about conflicts, about climate change, geopolitical tensions, divisions in societies. 83% of the Sustainable Development Goals are off track at the moment. But we also, in the midst of these challenges, see amazing opportunities, and we do believe more opportunities than challenges. These opportunities are reshaping economies, transforming industries, opening up new possibilities for innovation and for work. And at the center, the most powerful force driving these opportunities is exactly young people, the young generation. And I think I can probably will not have many that disagree. My experience has been that when I'm in a room full of older generation, mainly you're hearing about the problems. But when you're in a room full of young people, you're hearing about ideas, you're hearing about solutions and optimism. India has the world's greatest youth generation in history. Now, more young minds to tap for solutions than any country has ever had before, many of whom are online with us here today. And that is what gives us optimism, this unprecedented demographic dividend potential. So as the world transforms and evolves, the global workforce in particular, Indian youth are in a unique position to drive change, not just here in India, but at a level that will help move the global SDG needle as well. And the UN system here in India, we are very proud to be humble partners in this process with the government of India, with Indian communities and schools and businesses. It's our honor to help support in offering a range of programs to help the young people of India, to help tap this demographic dividend through skills building, gaining experience, connections to succeed here in India and as a result on the global stage. So whether it's through internships or volunteering or even engaging with your local Model United Nations chapter at your school or university, there are so many ways to get engaged and to make a real difference. Of course, our goal, the primary goal, is working with governments of India and businesses for that truly large-scale employment opportunities. But the UN itself also is a great career. I would not disagree with that. It is, of course, very competitive, no doubt about that, merit-based, although I'm sure not nearly as competitive as UPSC process to get into Indian civil service. But really, the ways to get into UN in terms of a career option are many. There's no sort of one single path. And I'm very pleased to see the diversity of different disciplines of students engaged here today, because really a background in economics, in social work, medical, legal, engineering, history, culture, arts, all of those backgrounds have different paths into the United Nations systems because of the diversity of the work that we do. Here in India alone, we have 26 different entities, UN entities in the UN country team with over 4,000 personnel across the country in every state and union territory of India. So if you're a recent graduate, we do typically require a degree, at least a first university degree, some work experience usually. So the way to get that work experience either is outside of the UN or through internships and these types of opportunities. But it's really focusing on the types of skills that we are looking at are quite similar to the types of skills that industries here in India are looking at. Of course, languages are important for us. As an Indian, as a young Indian, you will have already a natural advantage because you will most likely be speaking multiple languages. Experience in volunteering and providing to your community, giving back to your community is very important as well. Experience in any of the Sustainable Development Goals, all 17, is very valuable. So each year, thousands of individuals from around the world, young people, are serving, for example, through the UN Volunteer Program. And it's a really great opportunity to help make real change in people's lives. And again, work across the panoply of development space, peace and security, climate action, human rights, you name it, the opportunities are there. But you do need those skills that you need everywhere. You need digital literacy. You need to be able to work with data, to have analytical skills, to be adaptable, to be able to work across different cultures as well. This is the pace of change in today's environment. This is going to be important for you no matter what. In fact, I understand that in the next 10 years, many of the jobs that you students online will be filling in just the next 5 to 10 years don't even exist today. It's amazing. I think when I was young growing up, there was no such thing as a drone operator. There was no such thing as a content creator. All of these things, now the pace of that change is even picking up more and more fast. So we appreciate so much the important leadership of India, the governments of India, the important programs and mission programs like Skill India, Digital India, Make in India, and so many more, which are providing the groundwork for you, the young people of India, to really take hold of these opportunities. Government's investment in education and training from the very earliest stages is important to build that foundation for youth employment and long-term growth. So we are here as the United Nations to be your trusted partners in this process. Again, humble partners, and really to help you prepare for the world of work which is no longer about, or less and less about, the traditional career paths and more about innovation, adaptability, and mobility. So I wish to thank especially the Ministry for this opportunity to have this conversation. And let me just quote the UN Secretary General, who said, as young people, never underestimate your power. And I do believe never have there been more ways and means for you young people to take leadership through social media, through all of the different digital opportunities that we have than ever before. So to conclude, there is simply no more important time and no more important place than right now here in India to be having this conversation. because India is the country uniquely positioned to make the global SDGs a reality. It is about Yuva Shakti, but I like to also say an intergenerational partnership. So a partnership between those of you who are young and those of us like me who have gray hair, but are Jo Dilse young hair. So thank you very much. Looking forward to the conversation.
Thank you, Mr. Saad, for your valuable perspectives and insights. Now I invite Ms. Michiko Miyamoto, Director, ILO Country Office, India. An expert in the world of work, she has been working with ILO headquarters and the regional office for Asia Pacific. Over to you, Ms. Miyamoto.
Thank you very much for the introduction. Dr. Mansuku Mandavia, Honorable Union Minister for Labor and Employment and Youth Affairs and Sports. Sri Shobha Karandraj, Honorable Minister of State for Labor and Employment and Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. United Nations Resident Coordinator, Mr. Sean B. Sharp. Secretary, Minister of Labor and Employment, Madam Sumita Daura and her team. Joint Secretary, senior officials from the Government of India, Chairman of the University Grants Commission, and other colleagues from the United Nations, and then also senior and young colleagues from International Labour Organization joining today. And most of all, greetings to all the participants, bright, brilliant young students today. So it's a privilege to join you today, and my apologies for not being able to physically be in the room with you. And actually, the reason is that I'm attending my daughter's graduation in Melbourne tomorrow, actually. And I'm mentioning this because it's so relevant to the topic we're discussing today. Through my daughter's eye, I experience and see the view of the youth through the education, how the education can be applied in the career selection, what are the challenges in this rapidly changing world, and what are the opportunities. As Mr. Shombi emphasized, it's not just the challenges, but plenty of opportunities. So it's a pleasure to be able to discuss with you on this issue today, on youth education, career selection, and especially today about the career discussion. What are the issues in the sphere of multilateral international organizations, development work, including United Nations and including International Labour Organization, ILO. And on this point, I'm very grateful and very happy with this collaboration with the ministry to be able to share some of the experience and some of the insight knowledge from colleagues working in the UN to give some additional information to the youth in India. So United Nations, as Mr. Shombi explained, that we have quite a number of agencies in India as well, 22 entities, as he referred to. So that UN include United Nations Secretariat. It could include UN funds and programs such as UNICEF, for example, is the funds, children's funds, UNFPA, population funds, and the UNDP, it's a United Nations Development Program. And also, we also have United Nations specialized agencies such as ourselves, ILO, International Labour Organization, or Food and Agriculture, FAO, and many others. And when we discuss youth and jobs, so in that sense, ILO has a dual function today, as we are the technical agency for world of work. So we look into the future work issues in general. But at the same time, we can discuss specifically on some of the requirements and what is it like working in the UN, ILO, in international organization as a career options. So as you probably know, India is a large, holds largest youth population. 66% of the population, or in numbers, 808 million people, are categorized under the age of 35. So in UN, when we say young, that is the category of age we normally talking about. So every year, almost 8 million people join the labor market. And future of work as we speak, the labor market as we speak, are evolving very rapidly. Even looking back within just the last 5 years, what have we seen as the changes? We have witnessed a change of how we work in post-pandemic, post-COVID era. We have witnessed explosion of the gig and platform economy. And we also are learning how generative AI is work and going to change how we work in workplaces. So as young people, I'm sure you are confronted in a way that pressing realities and pressing changes, and you are observing what would be your pathway to develop yourself to be ready for the workforce. And what we once considered once in a generation, once in a decade innovation, now happening so quickly in few years, and we will only continue to see this time frame shrink between different trends. Now, International Labour Organization, ILO, is part of the United Nations. So we are United Nations specialized technical agency, promote social justice through creation of decent work. It was founded in 1919, so it's over 100 century ago. And I have to emphasize that India is one of the founding members. So India has always a very special place in the ILO. And ILO has been, instrumental in a sense that setting the global labor standards and developing policies and implementing projects and programs to promote decent work for all citizens. And a significant part of our mandate is to help also promote equity and employment and skills workers, which translate into economic and social development of the country and improving the lives of the population as a result. While career in the United Nations and other international organizations is interesting option, and as Mr. Sharp mentioned, compared to civil servant in a government job, which is prestigious and very well known in India. So we are talking about international civil servants who serve the globe. And some of my colleagues will touch upon how we get involved in this a bit more later and discuss more on the details. But maybe from my end, I would like to touch a little bit on the why this international organization career might be interesting for you. So international organization in general promote economic and social development of the world for the goodness of the world, uphold human rights, and tackle programs that transcend national boundary. So if you work in company, you work for the company, of course, company's progress. If you work for the country, you work for the country's progress. And international organization certainly work for the global progress. And in that sense, it plays a pivotal role in shaping international norms and standards and contributing development of international law, order, governance, and ensuring equitable access to opportunities for including most marginalized, vulnerable segment of the population in the world. And as Mr. Shombi also mentioned briefly, we also work very closely with countries on the Sustainable Development Goals. And in a sense that we work with member states closely to help breaking these goals into small action steps to further progress on them. So in the United Nations, another difference is, of course, our workforce is very diverse, made up of people from various member states, cultural background, and specializing in terms of various fields. It could be laws, economics, public health, business, gender, education, social studies, environmental studies, public administration, or finance, or any of those, among others. And so this shows that no matter what you are specializing in terms of educational background, there's always that you can contribute in that sense. And this, again, working in this diverse environment, it's not just the professional knowledge that counts, but to be able to work effectively, it's important to also have a competency related to excellent soft skills. For example, to be able to communicate effectively and in the diverse environment, and also have a behavior to respect diverse perspective from your colleagues from different backgrounds. Now, these are experience that some of the colleagues may wish to share from UN or ILO later on. But let me close my remarks today saying that I do believe that important steps, whatever you do in career setting, is to first clarify what you're passionate about and also what you're very good at. And if you can connect those two to add value to the global missions for your combining with your visions, a career path in international organization may be an interesting choice and interesting path for you. So with that, thank you so much for your attention. Dhanyavad. Namaskar.
Thank you very much, Ms. Miyamoto, for your very impactful address. Next, I welcome Ms. Sumita Davra, Secretary, Ministry of Labour and Employment, to share her insights and thoughts with us. Over to you, ma'am.
Thank you. Respected Union Minister Dr. Mandavia ji, respected Minister of State Madam Shobha ji, distinguished participants and dear students, I'm very happy to be addressing all of you today and to see the overwhelming response to today's webinar, which is a unique step the Ministry has taken today in collaboration with the United Nations and the International Labour Organization. And we are very excited about the events which will unfold today, where you will be interacting with distinguished speakers who will guide you on how to promote global career opportunities for yourselves. And as Mr. Sharp pointed out, India has an unprecedented demographic dividend, and this is a great opportunity for our youngsters to explore. We do know that there are many, many career opportunities before all of you. And as one very good career opportunity, this webinar today will be speaking about how we can increase awareness about potential roles you can play on the global sphere. And as we heard the ILO country director say, these are opportunities to become international civil servants and to serve on the global stage. Whether you are a college student, you're pursuing a degree in law or management or sciences or any other relevant field, you are today in a position to explore potential roles within the United Nations system and see how you can play a crucial role in shaping the future of the world in terms of development policies, programs with the unique perspectives you have as an Indian. So, as I said, our objective today is to increase awareness, and you will have the opportunity to hear experts from the UN system, from across India, and also from headquarters in Geneva. I shall not stand in between now. I shall not stand in the way. And I think we should very quickly go on to our other sessions. Wish you all the best, and we'll be holding many more such webinars in the near future. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for sharing your insights and valuable perspectives. Next, it is my honor to welcome Madam Shobha Kharandlaje, the Honorable Minister of State for Labour and Employment and Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises. I request ma'am to kindly address the audience.
Director ILO, Ms. Michiko Mayamoto-ji, distinguished experts and speakers from UN and also from ILO, senior officers, my dear students. I feel privileged and very happy to address this young gathering. The students from different colleges and individually who are joined in webinar were participating today the webinar on employment opportunities for youth in international organizations. This webinar, which is being organized by the Ministry of Labor and Employment, Government of India in collaboration with the UN, ILO and UGC. Presents a wonderful opportunity for our young minds who became aware of the employment, internship, volunteering opportunities available in the UN system. Youth of this country are the greatest asset. That's you. The government has implemented various initiatives to improve education system and job opportunities. The employment-linked incentive scheme announced in the Union Budget 2024-25 is one of the initiatives will be crucial in driving job creation and empowering youth across the nation. Prime Minister Internship Scheme is another remarkable initiative launched by the Indian government designed to provide valuable internship opportunities for youth of this country. The program, part of larger vision for skill development and employment, aims to bridge the gap between academic learning and real-world experience by offering internship across the top 500 companies. Our government, under the leadership of Prime Minister Narendra Modi ji, is fully committed towards engaging the youth of our nation positively by providing them a level playing field with opportunities to get maximum yield from them and our nation. Youth are the positive force of development. When provided with the knowledge and opportunities, they need to thrive. You people, the young generation, are the major human resource, not only for development, but also the key agents for social change and driving force for economic development and technological innovation. As we, as a nation, have the advantage of demographic dividend, which we will be tapped through you and our nation's future. As the young leaders of today and tomorrow, you will be the key driver for global development agenda. Hence, it is pivotal that youth should be informed and engaged with the global vision for the future. This event is an excellent opportunity to highlight how we can work together along with our international partners to bridge the gap between education, skill, and employment. These international organizations such as UN and ILO work to achieve international cooperation in the issues of economic, social, cultural, and humanitarian character, and to promoting and encouraging multilateral cooperation. Besides, they present a fulfilling career path, opportunities, and personal growth for young generation. We look forward to an engaging and insightful session. We encourage all the students to take full advantage of the wealth of information that shared today. Dear friends, we got our own webs and also portals in our department. You can go through that in the future, and also we'll get many of the informations from digital platform from our department and from other department also. विकसित भारत के लिए आपका मदद चाहिए. आप आने वाले दिन में काम करने वाले हैं, एंड 2047 में आपके काम के तहत, आपके लीडर्स के तहत हम विकसित भारत बनाएंगे. ऐसे हम आशा रखते हैं. Friends, thank you all, and I hope you will enriching experience in this webinar. Thank you all.
Thank you, ma'am, for your inspiring words. Now I am honored to introduce our chief guest, Honorable Minister of Labour and Employment and Youth Affairs and Sports, Dr. Mansukh Mandviya ji. I would also like to take this opportunity to thank him for gracing this event. Honorable Minister has been actively engaged in social service and youth empowerment. He has been a guiding force in promoting labour reforms and youth employment initiatives in India. With these words, I would like to invite Honorable Minister to share his thoughts and inspire the young students for greater success in their careers. Sir.
इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में एम्प्लॉयमेंट अपॉर्चुनिटी पर आयोजित आज के वेबिनार में हमारे बीच में उपस्थित मेरी सहयोगी मिनिस्टर शोभा जी, सभी यूनाइटेड नेशन, ILO और इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन के रिप्रेजेंटेटिव्स, सेक्रेटरी लेबर एंड एम्प्लॉयमेंट, उपस्थित सभी 1000 से अधिक संख्या में मेरे साथ जुड़े हुए यूथ साथियों, मैं मानता हूं कि आज का जो वेबिनार है ये बहुत महत्वपूर्ण वेबिनार है. ये देश में यूथ ये हमारी संपदा है, ये हमारी देश की ब्रांड और मैन पावर को लेके सारे दुनिया में डिस्कस भी होती है, डिबेट भी होती है. हम देखते हैं कि इंटरनेशनल प्लेटफॉर्म पर मल्टीनेशनल कई कंपनियों के CEO आज इंडियन है. You go to entire world, 1 million above doctors is Indian doctors. They are giving to service ग्लोबली. मैंने कोविड क्राइसिस के दरमियान दुनिया के साथ जब बातचीत करी थी और डे टू डे में दुनिया के साथ संपर्क में था, तो मुझे पता लगा कि हमारे देश के यूथ, हमारे देश के लोग दुनिया में जाके नहीं केवल जॉब कर रहा है, नहीं केवल आजीविका कमा रहा है, लेकिन वो दुनिया में जाके दुनिया की रिक्वायरमेंट को भी पूरी करता है, दुनिया को मदद भी करता है. और इसलिए ये देश में ब्रेन पावर और मैन पावर की कमी नहीं है, लेकिन उसको सही मायने में अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले, उसकी इच्छा के अनुसार अपॉर्चुनिटी मिले. आज ग्लोबलाइजेशन के समय में दुनिया एक दूसरे से नजदीक आई है. कंट्री और कंट्री के बीच में डिस्टेंस कम हुआ है, पीपल्स टू पीपल्स कनेक्ट बढ़ा है. दुनिया की अपॉर्चुनिटी को हम यहाँ बैठ के देख भी सकते हैं, समझ भी सकते हैं. जब आप सब लोग 1000 से अधिक की संख्या में यूथ यहाँ एकत्रित हुए हैं, वो बताते हैं कि आपके मन में भी कुछ जज्बा है, कुछ सीखना है, कुछ समझना है और अपनी करियर को बनाना है. केवल जरूरी नहीं है कि हम विदेश में इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जाके हम वहां जॉब करें, हमारे करियर को सुनिश्चित करें. जिसको रुचि है वो भी कर सकता है, लेकिन इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जाके वो इंटर्नशिप करे, कोई वॉलंटरी सेवा दे. ऐसा करने से आपकी स्किल भी इनहांसमेंट होती, ग्लोबल एक्सपोजर मिलता है आपको. जब आप दुनिया को नजदीक से देख सकते हैं, समझ सकते हैं. और ये वेबिनार में ये मानता हूं कि ये सुनिश्चित करता है कि वहां जाने के लिए आपको क्या करना है. वहां इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में कौन सी पोजीशन ऐसी होती है, उसके लिए आपको किस टाइप की स्किल की आवश्यकता है, ताकि आप वहां जाके काम कर पाए, ये सारी इंफॉर्मेशन और नॉलेज आपको ऐसे कार्यक्रम से होता है। मैं मिनिस्ट्री को भी अभिनंदन करता हूं और यहाँ जो इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन हमारे साथ जुड़े हैं, उसके प्रतिनिधि जुड़े हैं, उसको भी मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं। ये सबसे महत्वपूर्ण एफर्ट है। इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जाने के लिए यूथ को एक्सपोजर देना, दैट इज वन टाइप ऑफ एक्सपोजर। यहां उसको इंफॉर्मेशन मिलेगी, बाद में कई प्लेटफॉर्म का ये उपयोग करेंगे। फॉर एग्जाम्पल, नेशनल कैरियर सर्विस पोर्टल एम्प्लॉयमेंट डिपार्टमेंट के द्वारा हमारी मिनिस्ट्री ने बनाया है। आप जाके उसके ऊपर सर्च करिए, देखिए, आपको पता लगेगा कि सरकार ने आपके लिए क्या क्या व्यवस्था करी। ये प्लेटफॉर्म पर 37 लाख से अधिक एस्टेब्लिशमेंट रजिस्टर है, सभी स्टेट गवर्नमेंट रजिस्टर है। इंटरनेशनल सर्विस देने के लिए ई माइग्रेंट पोर्टल बनाया गया है विदेश मंत्रालय के द्वारा, वो भी उसके साथ इंटीग्रेटेड है। श्रम सुविधा पोर्टल भी उसके साथ इंटीग्रेटेड है। ऐसे कई टाइप के पोर्टल को इंटीग्रेट करके तो यूथ को इंटरनेशनल अपॉर्चुनिटी चाहिए कैरियर के लिए, तो वहां जाके वो एक्सेस कर सकता है, वहां जाके वो अप्लाई कर सकता है। मैं कल एक रिव्यू कर रहा था तो मेरे सामने आया कि पिछले एक दशक में क्लेम के डाटा बताता है कि 17 करोड़ एम्प्लॉयमेंट जनरेट हुआ है, लोगों को जॉब मिली है। उसमें से 11% जॉब ये नेशनल कैरियर सर्विस पोर्टल के द्वारा मिली। वहां जाके उन्होंने एक्सेस करा, वहां जाके उन्होंने अप्लाई करा। ये बहुत बड़ी, मैं मानता हूं कि मिनिस्ट्री की सिद्धि है, सरकार की सिद्धि है। हम एज ए यूथ ऐसी अपॉर्चुनिटी को देखें, समझे, दुनिया में आपकी अपॉर्चुनिटी ढूंढे, नहीं केवल एम्प्लॉयमेंट के लिए बट एक्सपोजर के लिए भी। आप इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन में जाके अपनी सेवा कई तरीके से दे सकते हैं, लेकिन वहां जाने का रास्ता कौन सा हो सकता है, कैसे जाना है, जाने के लिए क्या करना है, हमारे में कौन सी स्किल होनी चाहिए, वहां पर कौन सी अपॉर्चुनिटी है, ये अपॉर्चुनिटी एनकेस करने के लिए कौन से वे है, ये सब तय करने के लिए और उनके लिए इंफॉर्मेशन मिले, उस उद्देश्य के साथ आज का वेबिनार का आयोजन करा गया है। मैं अपेक्षा करता हूं कि इस वेबिनार से मेरे देश के यूथ को प्रेरणा भी मिलेगी, इंफॉर्मेशन भी मिलेगी, अपॉर्चुनिटी भी मिलेगी और अपनी कैरियर को सुनिश्चित करने के लिए सहयोग भी मिलेगा। आप सब यूथ को मेरी ओर से हार्दिक शुभकामनाएं, मिनिस्ट्री को मेरी ओर से अभिनंदन, धन्यवाद, एंड इंटरनेशनल ऑर्गेनाइजेशन जो आज जुड़े हैं उसको भी मैं अभिनंदन करता हूं। धन्यवाद।
Thank you very much, sir, for your enlightening words and inspiring vision. Sir, your guidance always motivates us to push for higher accomplishments. Sir, with this, we conclude our inaugural session. Next, we will move to the technical session that delves deeper into practical pathways for youth engagement in international organizations. Our first presentation will be made by Mr. Chris Garraway, economist from United Nations Regional Coordinator's Office, and Mr. Satoshi Sasaki, Deputy Director at ILO Country Office in New Delhi. They will elaborate on the skills required for the global workforce and highlight the various employment opportunity within UN organizations. Sir, on behalf of the ministry, sir, thank you very much for sparing your time, sir. Thank you. Thanks a lot, sir.
and it's a tough act to follow coming after the Honorable Minister and the Minister of State and their wise words. And my limited Hindi and the help of my colleagues allowed me to understand some of the things that the Minister was saying. I think one thing that is really important and that is really related to what I'm going to try to speak about today is what he said about the opportunities that are presented by the UN family. It's not necessarily for you to try to join the UN organizations. It's extremely competitive. Often it's by chance, but by engaging with the UN system, by interning, by volunteering, you can gain the global skills that are in demand in the workforce of today and of tomorrow. And that is what I'm going to try to talk about. And I also wanted to say something about the Minister of State. She mentioned that India's youth is a major human resource of the country. And actually, for the UN system, young Indians have been a major human resource for multilateralism. The first female president of the General Assembly is Indian. It is no surprise that the Special Envoy of Technology, the first Special Envoy of Technology of the Secretary General, is also an Indian. And the most recent recipient of Gender Advocate of the Year from the Secretary General is Major Radhika Sen, a female Indian peacekeeper. So India plays a very important role for the UN system. And I'm going to try to tell you about the kinds of skills that are in demand in the UN system and how you can benefit from that. Next slide, please. The first message I want to leave you with is the idea, and I know many of you are young students, maybe finishing your degrees or freshly out of degrees. In the United Nations system, I haven't been in university in 20 years, but I continue to learn every day on the job. And so it is really important to work in the international organizations to adopt a mindset for lifelong learning and to continue to update your skills, both your soft skills and your hard skills across your career, because the needs for them are changing. Shambi pointed out the fact that many of some 10% or so of the jobs that will be here in 2030 don't even exist today. The world is changing so fast that we must continue to learn and learn inside ourselves. I'll give you an example. Myself, I learned yoga just coming to this country. I never did yoga before in my life, but now I do it every day. It's things like that that make it, opening your perspective and being able to see different perspectives from your own. That is really key to being a lifelong learner, and that is really critical for being a United Nations staff member. Next slide, please. Now, I wanted to point out 5 skills that we in the UN, we call them the quintet of change. We also call them UN 2.0. And these are key skills that we know we really don't actually have in the UN. In the UN, we're quite old. And part of this is because of political reasons and intergovernmental reasons, but we really are looking for these 5 skills, and they have to do, Shambi pointed to some of them earlier, with data analysis, understanding data and how to use it and visualize it, understanding digital skills, how to adapt and use the new technologies that are emerging and changing our lives every day. Also, understanding behavioral science. Behavioral science is really critical, especially in a field. In the United Nations, what we're doing is we're working always with governments and other stakeholders to try to implement policies and to get people to change their behaviors. And behavioral science is really critical to that objective. Also, the capacity to innovate. Innovation is something, being able to innovate, it's kind of the flip side of your lifelong learning. And then finally, the skill of foresight. This is something that comes out of the futures literature. The idea that we use strategic foresight to understand the complex world that we're living in, and we don't know necessarily where things will be in 5-10 years. So it's really useful to think and use foresight to imagine different scenarios of whatever area of expertise you want to think of, whether it's economy, whether it's social, whether it's the environment. Foresight is a critical tool we use to understand, for example, the impacts of climate change and the potential for greater disasters and more sporadic weather. And then at the same time, there's also an important aspect in our work of human rights, of the need for partnerships, of mobilizing resources, because we don't have very many resources in the UN. Also of really understanding climate action, understanding crisis response, and above all, being a good strategic communicator. Communication is also a very important skill. Next slide, please. Now, there are a number of ways to get involved with and work for UN organizations. And, as the minister said, we might not all get the chance to work for UN agencies, especially when we're young people. I myself, I was almost a good 15 years into my career when I started working for the United Nations. But that doesn't mean you can't start building those skills now. Shambi mentioned the Model United Nations. This is something that exists in many schools and universities. There's also, when you finish your master's degree, and even in some cases, for some agencies, your bachelor's degree, you can look for an internship of 3 to 6 months in a UN agency. There is the United Nations Volunteers Initiative. We're going to hear from one of our UN volunteers very soon about her experience. There's also consultancies and temporary jobs that all UN agencies have. These are posted. They're usually of short duration and usually to do a punctual activity. That's a great way of gaining experience. And the two ones you hear a lot of out there on the internet and in career discussions, there's junior professional officers and there's young professionals program. I just want to say these two ways of getting in the UN, they're great, but they also depend on your age and on your nationality. And they're not always available to all nationalities and all age groups. And finally, the kind of standard employment that we have for all jobs is the professional jobs, the national officer positions, and the general service positions. And this represents the bulk of the jobs that are out there and advertised. Now, how to learn about those jobs? Well, I've put on the slide here, and I'm sure the organizers will share it, some of the links. There's all of the UN agencies have websites. I've put up the ones from the UN Secretariat, from the ILO, from the UNDP, and even from the World Bank. They're also part of our UN family. And there's also good aggregators you can use to look at the jobs that many organizations offer. One is unjobs.org. They have many, many organizations listed there. But I will just warn you, not all aggregators out there are good. Some try to ask you to give them money. It's really important to remember, never, ever, ever pay money to apply for a UN job. We will never ask for you to pay anything. Now, there's also, to get and understand the UN and how to get involved with it, it's really critical that you expand your network and that you network. This is, I can't emphasize this enough. Many of the opportunities out there are hiding below the surface. And it's important to get involved in the sectors that the UN works in. You can work and volunteer in sectors like research, think tanks, advocacy, consulting, NGOs, to gain the kinds of experience that will allow you later to enter the UN. And in addition, I've put a couple websites up there. You can learn about the types of work the UN does. And that's really important because understanding the UN is the first step in gaining entry into the UN. Next slide, please. This is a picture of the United Nations system. And I will be the first, and this is even half of the diagram, I will be the first to admit to you it is a very complex system, a virtual alphabet soup of different agencies and different entities. Trying to fix that, I've worked for the UN Secretariat. The resident coordinator, Shambi is the resident coordinator for UN. The job of that office is to help bring all the different UN agencies in a country together, but it is challenging and it's not always clear. But the more you learn about the different work that the UN does, whether it's intergovernmental, whether it's technical assistance and development, or whether it's peace and security or human rights, the better prepared you are to see where your skills and your background and your interests fit into the UN. Because we work in so many domains and so many areas that it's very likely that something that you do, something you're interested in, we are working on it and we need your skills. Next slide, please. So now I just wanted to finish off by kind of going through how to apply and some tips on applying to jobs in the UN system. All of the UN websites, for the most part, the employment sites, they allow you to create a generic job profile where you put all your education, your skills, your experience. It takes a long time, but it's something that you can do, and you can prepare a draft application and keep it there. And then when you see a position that you're interested in, you can, or that you're qualified for, you can very easily from that draft application create and craft a specific application for the job you're interested in. Now, these specific applications will have screening questions. And it's really important to recognize that these can be eliminatory. So you need to answer them carefully and clearly, because in a way, we actually use artificial intelligence to screen through the application. So just saying, if it says, do you have skills in communication? You don't want to answer yes. You want to say, I have skills in communication because of my experience in such and such job. If you get through that step of getting your application accepted and screened, they will usually invite you then to take a test, a written assessment. Usually this is done online. Sometimes it can be a video, and they'll ask you to do it for 1 to 2 hours without any outside materials, and that is how they then make the long list goes down to the short list. And finally, the short list is when you would be asked to come in for a competency-based interview. And that's your half hour to 45 minutes where you can talk to the hiring manager about your experiences. Now, next slide. The important thing, and I'm going to speak just a little bit about the competencies, because all UN agencies have them. We have things called values, competencies, and behaviors. And this is the current, for example, competencies framework of the UN Secretariat. Every job posting in the UN, for the most part, refers to 3 to 5 of these competencies. Almost every single one refers to professionalism. It's worthwhile to go on the website and look at these competencies, understand what these competencies are, because in an interview, they're not going to ask you hypothetical questions. Oh, what would you do if you worked in my office? They want to say, how do I know you're a good communicator? How do I know you're good at data? And you need to say, I am a good communicator because I worked in X position, I communicated on this and this, I did this and this and this. You need to refer to your own experience when you interview and demonstrate your competencies. Next slide. You can see these are the specific competencies. And you need to prepare, kind of look at your CV and be able to talk about your experience in the context of these types of activities. In the first person, you don't want to say we or they or us. You want to say, I did this. I worked collaboratively with my colleague to achieve the goal that our organization set for ourselves. And you really, I know we don't like to talk in first person, but it really is about showing confidence in your abilities, in your knowledge and expertise. Next slide. The interview is usually the best way. They will ask these questions and ask you things like, tell me about a situation when you went above and beyond your manager's expectations. And if you haven't prepared for that, it's very hard to do in a way that is convincing. And the way we suggest that you prepare your answers to these questions is to use what we can call CARL or STAR format. The CARL format, it's context, action, result, and then learning. First, you want to talk about the context. I worked in such and such position, or I volunteered for such and such organization. We had an objective we had to fulfill. Action, what did you do specifically? This is where you say, I did this. I prepared the PowerPoint. I wrote the talking points. I designed a website. These kinds of things. Then what was the result? The result was we had a great meeting with the minister came, or the secretary came, or we put on a great event. Or we got this many more people to sign up for this program we were working on. And then finally, what did you learn and what would you do differently? That's where you reflect and say, actually now knowing what I know, I maybe would have done this differently. And this is really important to demonstrate that you actually have the skills and are confident and you have exhibited those behaviors in your past experience. Next slide, please. This is my last slide, and this is just to tell you, and I told you before at the beginning, I mentioned that what is needed in international organizations are changing. We are going UN 2.0, maybe towards UN 3.0. These are the future competencies. These are what we call the UN values and behaviors framework. And very soon, in a year or two in the UN Secretariat, these will be the competencies that we have to interview. And there are 5 of them, basically. And some agencies are already using this framework, like, for example, the UN Development Program. The first one is connecting and collaborating. This is both communications and teamwork together, I would think. Then analyze and planning. So this is not just planning and organizing, but this is actually using data, using insight to prepare your work. Then there's delivering results with positive impact. So this is showing that you can deliver on the tasks that you're given. The fourth one is learning and developing. This again gets back to lifelong learning. And the fifth one is adapting and innovating. Again, reflecting this idea of the UN 2.0 and the fact that we live in a very changing, dynamic world. And pinning all this together are the 4 values of the UN system: inclusion, integrity, humility, and humanity. I hope this has been helpful for you. I don't want to take up any more time because I know we have a great lineup ahead of us. I'm sure the organizers will make these slides available, but we are always willing to hear from interested and dynamic young people. So my best of wishes to all of you, and thank you again to the organizers for inviting me to speak today. Thank you very much.
Now I would invite Mr. Sasaki.
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, young for the participants. I'm from ILO, and based on what the Chris already mentioned, I just want to the supplement for the points from the International Labour Organization ILO point of view. Particularly ILO, as the director mentioned, is a specialized agency of the United Nations for the world of work, and we have some additional information for you. For example, the ILOs based in the headquarters based in Geneva, Switzerland, and we have the field offices across the world. And as ILO, we are drafting adopting and monitoring the implementation of the international labor standard. And that based on in terms of the convention and the recommendation. And we do a lot of the flagship reports, publications, and working papers, and for the maintaining and update the global renowned for the set of the statistical database with the national based on the national resource for the labor market data, and also manage the wide range of the development cooperation projects. And the ILO office in India is in New Delhi. And we have the country offices, which is looking after the country program, and also added by the team of the specialists responsible for assistance to 7 countries in South Asia. And perhaps I'll be a little bit for the details about the employment opportunities in ILO, particularly focusing on the job for the categories. And first area, one slide before, please. Yeah, well, international professional staff. Well, this is for the regular position. These positions are expected to take up the different for the assignment in field offices and headquarters, and for the dealing with and throughout their career at the ILO. And international positions. These for the positions are the covers for all areas of ILO work, and normally requires for the ones to have the advanced for the university graduates, in particular the masters and above. Next slide, please. Well, another category is called for the JPO or Junior Professional Officers. And this is for the program for the young and motivated for the professionals and interested in pursuing the careers in the international development. And particularly this the JPO program is funded by the donor countries for 2 to 3 years, and in different locations all over the world, including headquarters and country offices. And usually these positions are applicable for the citizens of the donor countries. Next slide, please. Internship. Yes, ILOs very much looking for the ones who's eagerly learn the experiences with the ILO or the mandate and the activities. And typically this is for 3 to 6 months period. And I know we have for the internship roster that you have to register first. And then for the, we will call for applications 2 to 3 times per year based on the requests from the different offices all over the world. And to apply for these positions, you have to be enrolled in the last year of the master or equivalent for the higher degree programs. And for the relevant to the ILO work, and or you have for the completed such program in the year proceeding to application. And there is no age for the limit for this for the application. Next slide, please. Development corporations. Development cooperation is an important means for the ILO to achieve decent work outcomes. And these for the programs can be funded for both by ILO for the regular fund, regular budget, or the voluntary contributions from the different for the development partners. And development cooperation positions are accommodated within the specific program or project and for limited the duration. And at the moment, ILOs having about 700 programs and the project over in 100 countries. Next slide, please. National. Okay. National positions, there are 2 different kinds. One is called the General Service, GS staff, and another one is called the National Officer, NO categories. And for this encompasses for any of the ILOs for the areas of work. Next slide, please. Temporary positions. Yes, I think for the Chris also mentioned that this is open at any time in any countries. And for the typically this is within the assignment for 1 year, less than 1 year. And last one is about consultancy. This is what called external collaboration under the external collaboration contract, and they offer to the individual to perform specific tasks in the given for the time frame. And for example, the research work or assignment for translation, this kind of tasks, or very specific tasks. And this is for these contracts are not in the employment contract, and for the remain outside the scope of the ILO staff regulation. So these are about for the different types of the staff for the employment categories. And for I just would like to mention a few more points if you are to apply for the international organizations like the United Nations. What I have to just mention is for in general, these are the common among the all UN agencies. But of course, there are certain differences among the agencies. And other than JPO and for the internship, we are expecting the good working experience, which is essential and to be successful in the competition. And also the technical knowledge and skills are essential, but also, as for the other speakers also mentioned, that for the competencies is critically important. For example, the leadership, collaboration, communication, knowledge management. And we scrutinize for the capacities in the selection process. But if you'd like to know more details about these points, don't worry about it. When you look at for the job descriptions for the uploaded on the different agencies for the website, it's for the mentioning about what sort of the competencies or the technical skills for the required for these positions. And it's also mentioned that for in case of ILO for the positions, you can see that with the website jobs.ilo.org. And in case of the job interviews, we are expecting to hear your experiences, not like what you can do, but what you have done in what ways. So this is something you have to think about very carefully for preparation for applying for the United Nations positions. Okay, I would like to stop here. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Garraway and Mr. Satoshi Sasaki, for the detailed and very informative session. Thanks a lot. Thank you very much. Now we had kept a session on presentation on NCS portal, National Career Service Portal, but due to paucity of time, we are skipping it. But I would like to touch upon it. That this is Government of India's employment service portal, and it provides free of cost employment services to the job seekers and youth. And the average vacancy is 20 lakhs active vacancies is there. And during 2023-24, more than 1 crore, 1 crore means 10 million vacancies were posted on NCS portal. And it also provides career counseling, guidance, soft skills, digital skills, training, training opportunities also. So I will request the young participants and students to visit this and register on the portal for availing skilling and employment opportunities. Now, quickly, I will move on to next session, and this is we transition to a panel discussion on experience sharing by the Indian senior experts and the young professionals working in the United Nations. Our distinguished panelists include Ms. Sukti Das Gupta. She currently serves as the Director of the Conditions of Work and Equality Department at the ILO headquarters in Geneva. Mr. Srinivas B. Reddy, who currently serves as Chief of Skills and Employability Branch at ILO headquarters in Geneva. Ms. Aarti Batra, Disability Justice Consultant, former UN volunteer, and Ms. Akriti Parasar, Communication and Information Management Officer, ILO Delhi office, and they will be sharing their personal journeys with UN program. So now I request them to share their experiences one by one. So first, Ms. Sukti Das Gupta. Madam Sukti Das Gupta, over to you.
Yes, thank you so much. You can hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Me, right?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Your Excellencies from the Government of India, my colleagues from the United Nations and the ILO, and my dear students, it's my great honor to be speaking to you today. It's quite early here in Geneva, but I really wanted to make it. I was asked to share my experiences, and I gave it some thought because I was wondering, what is it that I can say to you that would really be useful to you, given the fact that, you know, when I joined the ILO, perhaps most of you were not born. So this was way back in 1997. But nevertheless, let me just try to reflect on a few things. You've already heard quite a bit about the UN, the complexity of the UN, the many different agencies and, the different job families and how you can apply, what are the entry-level positions. So when I joined the ILO, I was finishing my PhD in the University of Cambridge in UK. And I was doing my PhD after I had done my master's in economics from Jawaharlal Nehru University in New Delhi. And I was told then by my supervisor that the ILO was looking for junior economists. So I applied and I went through a very grueling, intense interview process. And finally, I got the job. And here I am today. But, over the years, now it's been almost 27 years with the ILO. I have worked in many different offices across the world. And I've actually served in headquarters in Geneva for 13 or 14 years. But the rest of the time has been what we call field positions. And in a way, in the UN, it's very important to get this experience both in the field and in the Geneva. But, the world has changed quite a bit since those days. And today you have a lot more information at your fingertips than we had then. But you also have a lot of competition. And the question, of course, is, how do you make the mark in this very, very competitive world? So I was thinking of, the many interviews we have today where young people apply, and I thought I will share with you a few of my observations or reflections on that. So those could be useful for you. Now, first and foremost, I think it's extremely important that you know the agency that you are interested in applying for. Because as you know, there are many different agencies and each have a different mandate. Now, for me, what perhaps helped me get into the ILO was that I was using a lot of ILO's work in my research. So in the interview process, I was able to connect, my experiences and my knowledge with the ILO's mandate. So it's really important that you know what the mandate of the organization is and you do a little bit of a study on that. But it's also important today, extremely important to have the language skills. The UN has 6 official languages, English, French, Spanish, Chinese, Russian, and Arabic. But of course, when you're looking for a job in Geneva or in New York in the headquarters, normally you're asked to have at least one language that you're fully fluent in, which would probably be English for most of you. But knowledge of a second language, at least a working knowledge or a basic knowledge of French and Spanish or Arabic or mainly could really be useful, because nowadays a lot of the first screening of the CVs are done using some kind of algorithm where they really want to tick the boxes. And in this context, you really stand out if you have a second language from one of these languages of the UN family. But also more and more, you need to have, of course, at least to be an intern, for example, you need to be in the first years of master's. For a P2 or P3, those are entry-level professional positions. You need to have a master's in your field, which could be in economics or law or medicine or geography or so any social sciences, environmental studies, etc., depending on what you're aspiring for. But an advanced degree always helps, so PhD would always help. But also more and more the focus is, as you heard from the colleagues earlier, is on soft skills, on competencies. So soft skills meaning they will test you for your ability to work in a team, your ability to solve problems, your ability to adapt to a multicultural context. Because bear in mind that, when you're working for an international organization, you are in a multicultural context. So you really need to be sensitive to multicultural issues and respect, etc. But also some prior work experience, whether it is in academia or whether it is in an NGO or a volunteer or, any kind of previous work experience. So at least 1 or 2 years. If you are able to show that in your curriculum vitae, it really helps. Also nowadays, this is also something I was thinking, when I joined the ILO, I had a face-to-face interview. There was a very large panel that was questioning me. But now you have more and more online interviews. And I think you know better than me, the various, how you portray yourself online, what are the do's and don'ts. But most important is not only the subject matter, but also your ability to come through as someone who's authentic and someone who's interested in the job and will be, even if you don't have the skills today, you'll be able to master the skills. It's a question of lifelong learning, being open to learning. And the other thing I would say is, get yourself some mentors, because it's very important to have the network, to remain connected, to talk to people who know what is going on so that they can even tell you, give you some leads as to what you should apply for, what you should be looking for, and be knowledgeable about the overall context, because it's UN is a huge bureaucracy and it's a very, very complex bureaucracy. So it's always good to know people who will be able to give you the proper guidance. And this could be your own university professors, but also those who are in the UN that you might have some contacts with, but others who might be much more knowledgeable, or people who are working for the government, etc. And I think more or less those are the issues, but I think the model UN was also mentioned earlier, and I think if you have a chance to participate in the model UN, it always helps. But also cultivating some leadership and initiative kind of issues. Those are the things you will be tested for. And finally, I would like to stop here because you would like to hear from others who have also many things to share. In the ILO, we have always had senior colleagues mentoring younger colleagues, and I have mentored many, especially younger women, because, it's not only that you're entering the ILO as an Indian, you might also need to look at, what are the issues when you're entering as a woman, because there are special challenges out there as well. But now we have started this year what we call reverse mentoring. So I have signed up to be mentored by a very young colleague who's just entered. So there you get to know what is it that the youth are looking for, how the youth look at the UN as well. And more the issues that stand out is the need to be heard. You might be a young person, but you really have an opinion and you want to be heard. But also issues around teleworking are very important for young people. And you might be knowing that more and more UN organizations have a much more liberal teleworking schedule and scheme. And finally, just to say that, India is home to largest share of youth people, I would say, and very, very vibrant, very well regarded in the international context. There are many young people, Indians as well, amongst the interns in the ILO. And so there is you have a lot of opportunities, but of course the question is to ask yourself, what is it that you really want to do? Because I think it was Michiko who said it's not only what you're good at, but also what you want to do. And for the UN, the big question, of course, is social justice, promotion of decent work, but also in a very multicultural context. So with that, let me stop. And of course, if you have any questions, I'll be happy to come in. Thank you.
Thank you, madam, for sharing your experience. And for questions, once all the panelists share their experience, after that we will take up the questions. And so now I invite Mr. Srinivas B. Reddy for sharing his experiences. Mr. Reddy.
Thank you very much, Rupesh. Good afternoon to all the respected guests there and to friends online. This is an excellent initiative, and I want to really congratulate the Minister of Labour and Employment for taking up this. It's very good that Youthi and I are speaking, because we are two, I think, very good experiences of how we entered the ILO and progressed. Well, Youthi started from Geneva, her first job in ILO, but I started in the field from India itself 24 years ago. So I'm from a small town boy from Visakhapatnam in Andhra Pradesh. So I studied there. And then from university, I joined the government of Andhra Pradesh, worked there for 12 years. And then I moved to the ILO in the year 2000. And as just Youthi said, how it happened, even before I joined the ILO, I was specializing on, at that time, child labor was very, very hot topic. And so I did my PhD on child labor and was working with the UNICEF and ILO probably 3-4 years before I joined the ILO itself. So the connection with the UN agency that you would be probably interested in joining, even before joining, actually helps you a lot in terms of understanding the priorities and how you can make a transition. So, while I started in India, worked there in Hyderabad and Delhi, ILO Delhi office for about 6-7 years, and then I moved international. So within the UN, within the ILO, I have, I think, done more or less. I did 6 competitions actually before becoming the current role as head of the global skills development work of the ILO. A lot of Indians we have in ILO in Geneva. We are roughly about, I think, 30 people, but also across the globe, Indian talent is very much appreciated. I just want to share my own personal experience of, if you are looking for joining the ILO, obviously excellence in your technical field is a given thing. We are expecting that you are expert in, you will specialize, not an expert, but you will specialize in a particular academic area. So academic excellence is a given thing. But if you are academically already excellent, what else? What are the other skill sets that will enable you to join any UN agency? I'll be, even at the risk of repetition, but I'll just pick up 2-3 skills that will make you outstanding. In terms of communication skills, outstanding communication skills, including storytelling, what you have done rather than what you can do, which means that, whether you are involved with an NGO initiative or a private sector initiative or whatever, some service initiative, you should be able to speak, this is what I've done. That is very, very important, actually, so that you will be outstanding when compared to other candidates. What is it that you have done that can really prove that you have the proven expertise? Similarly, as our colleague from the UN Secretariat mentioned, networking, a good networking skills, ability to work on teams and collaboration. So, your work and your ability to network is of high relevance. Also, I would say outstanding writing skills, because a lot of young people will be expected to write, let us say, a concept note or a project document or a problem analysis. So the ability to comprehend and quickly write in an outstanding manner. So if you're a good communicator, good storyteller, you're a good networker, you're a good writer, I have no doubt that you can actually enter into ILO. I said, I said, your academic excellence is taken for granted, is given, that is necessary. Like as someone said, this is international competition, but I can say not tough as Indian civil service examinations. You don't need to go that level of hard work. But if you are interested, one of the many ways is to get in touch with an agency that might be of interest to you. UN has wide-ranging agencies like, economic actors, and then you have social development actors, environment actors, health actors. So choose an agency or a couple of agencies and try to work with it. Even within India, you have probably a few thousand UN staff in India. I don't know the exact number, but at least definitely hundreds of UN staff in India and also in international settings. But I also want to give you another possibility that there is a UN Retirees Association in India. There could be also a very good pool of mentors and advisors to to be able to connect with the UN Retirees Association. Some of them are in all parts of India. They could be very good mentors. So I think your work also, let me close by saying, as a young person, these days you're all doing exceedingly well in terms of proving what your competencies and skill sets are. So, try to, in addition to a regular qualification, but your skill set should be evidence, creating, proving, what have you done in terms of, other than academic excellence, to prove that, these are the things that, for example, resource mobilization, ability to mobilize resources for the UN is a unique strength in high demand. If you say that I have my past experience, I mobilized, let us say, $1 million for this particular initiative, that will put you outstanding in terms of other candidates. So happy to support and answer any questions, or even future, how to get into all of that. We'll be more than happy to support that. Thank you very much, colleagues.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reddy, for sharing your experiences. Now I would like to invite Ms. Aarti Batra. Ms. Aarti.
Hello, am I audible? Yeah, I think my screen froze for a minute. Hello, everyone. I am Aarti, as you know, and I have been working as a UNV for past 3 months at the UNRCO office, and my role is around disability research and advocacy, and I have been onboarded to work on a particular research project that is an interagency research project. So in many ways, I think I have been in the position of people who are listening to us not quite a while ago. And again, there was a rigorous experience that I went through for my interview and selection and application process that I'm here to share. But before I get into that, I would like to just lay out my academic experience has been that I am a literature graduate. I have a post-graduation in literature, and I'm doing my PhD in English literature and how it intersects with medical humanities. So traditionally, the field of academia that I have chosen is not something that you associate with social science very regularly. Literature comes more on the preview of humanities. However, I spent quite some time building my skills to the positions that I have been interested in, that the motivations I have had, and that is, I think, what has helped me to be a UNV. I believe the most important thing to get into a UNV program is the intent and motivation that you have, and how your experiences, be it professional, be it personal, how your experiences make you a better fit than other people. So that was my learning through the application process. But I believe UNV provides a very, very good enriching experience to us young professionals to get into the UN system and understand the interagency processes, how they function, how particular UN agencies function. And as Chris mentioned, to understand the UN system, I am still figuring it out, and I think it will take quite a long time. But it is a nice gateway to understand it and then further your career and further apply for positions. However, to get into the UNV program, you do need certain skills, you do need certain competencies, and most positions do require some sort of experience. The experience is not very advanced or very intense for most UNV positions because they are looking for young people to be engaged. But core competencies like data, like digital innovation, communication skills are few of the very commonly used competencies that are required. And one of the major way to assess it through when you are going through a UNV selection process or recruitment process is competency-based programs, where I think personally for me, what has helped me in the competency-based program was to provide examples, provide instances of how I have achieved a competency, or I have experiences around those competencies. That is something that helps you. What I believe also, your personal experiences, if you come from a marginalized background, if you come from an identity that you think that helps the cause or helps motivates you to apply for a certain position, that is something that matters a lot and that you should talk about it. I do identify as a person with disability that I think helped me establish my motivations better for the role. So that is something that one should look for, one should cultivate in their usage. And as someone mentioned, it is basically about finding an ideal match between your motivation and your experiences. So when I was studying literature, it did not give me the experience of data analysis, qualitative data analysis, or field work, or in terms of advocacy. So these are the competencies I gained with my previous work with NGOs, with civil societies, with research organizations, think tanks, and I did develop a lot of competencies that were required for the role through volunteerism, through internships in these think tanks and these organizations. So yeah, I think that's what my experience has been, and I'll be happy to take up any questions about how to apply to a UNV program. However, it's pretty simple. There's a UNV portal. You have to just make a brief profile and then look for the opportunities that you're interested in. And whenever you are looking for an opportunity, try to select an opportunity that interests you and then justify your experiences accordingly. Yeah, thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Aarti. Now I would like to invite Ms. Akriti Parasar for sharing her experiences.
Thank you. I
Ms.
hope I'm
Akriti.
audible.
Yes, you're audible.
Senior officials from the Ministry of Labour and Employment, senior colleagues from the UN and from the ILO, and all the students here today. Good afternoon. I am Akriti Parasar. I am the National Officer for Communications with the ILO in the New Delhi office. So I've been with the ILO and the UN system for about the last 3 years. I'm a journalist by training, and I've worked in media and communication and in the development sector for almost a decade. So it was my educational background and my practical training that helped me get my current role. So I'd like to talk through the entire application process, how to get in, and also what my learnings have been in my current role. So firstly, with the application process, like it's already been mentioned, we have all our official websites where the postings are listed, as well as on portals like DevNet. The job descriptions are extremely extensive, so it's important to see what are the skills you have, and also to highlight what is the value proposition that you are bringing to the organization, and also to understand how you can capitalize from the wealth of experience and information the organization will have to offer you if you are to join them. It is also important to note what your career goals are, because that will really help you in tailoring your application for the role and also for the organization to sort of chart what your career progression could be, as that definitely helps in standing out in front of the hiring managers. Then once you're past the application process, you're shortlisted for a test. So I had to take a written test, and being the communication position, I went through extensively what public information we have on our website, on our social media pages. The ILO is also a specialized agency and a tripartite agency. So I had to understand what that means and how that is communicated in what we're sharing with the world, and also to understand how we are different from other UN agencies, because when you're on the outside, it can be a bit complicated really to understand what each agency is doing, but there's more than enough information on all our platforms to understand how we work with each other, but also independently. And while the UN is an institution, it is definitely a space that lets you innovate. So in the test, for example, that the challenges that were presented to us, I definitely had the space to offer creative solutions, capitalizing on my past experience in media and communication, which definitely helped me stand out from the rest of my competition. Then after the written test is done, there's an interview with about 4 or 5 senior officials in top management. And while you have to demonstrate your understanding of the organization's mandate, it's also for them to assess how good an organization fit you'll be. And as it was mentioned by my senior colleagues earlier, you need to demonstrate your real world examples and practical experience of definitely having worked with diverse stakeholders. So you need to show the I in the larger we setup and what you offered in those spaces, the challenges that you had, definitely the learnings that you've taken back from them. Now, coming to what my job would entail, so my primary responsibility is being the ILO's brand custodian and improving the organization's visibility, both internally and externally. Practically, that would translate into facilitating media inquiries, ensuring that our publications get wide dissemination, especially in the field, helping build thought leadership through events, meetings, engagements, op-eds, campaigns. We also make policy and on-ground interventions, being a technical agency. So I also help oversee the documentation of whatever we're doing in multimedia formats for our tripartite constituents, but also for a larger audience. And I'm also able to accompany my colleagues when they go out into the field to document what we're doing, to also showcase to our development partners. Given the nature of our work, I also get to work quite closely with our headquarters colleagues for not just internal documentation, but again, to disseminate what we're doing in India to a larger platform. And finally, touching upon what are the kind of opportunities this role has opened for me and what I've really gained out of this experience. Firstly, as the communications lead for India, I get to work with colleagues specializing in various fields. And there's a lot of in-depth information, knowledge share that happens. And the way our organizations are set up, they are really enablers for lifelong learning and continuously improving on what you're doing, and also always being able to learn far more than what you came in with. Additionally, I also get to work quite closely with the global communications team on a day-to-day basis, but I was also able to, go to Geneva to say support them during the International Labour Conference to see how that tripartite mechanism really plays out, which then we're able to distill back into our work. Sukti was also mentioning about the reverse mentorship program that we have. So I've also been part of that and been working with a much senior colleague. And that, again, has shown the space for innovation, where we come together to, brainstorm on certain challenges we have and to understand how we can really do better and, to take how to really build upon the future of work, first internally and then also externally. And lastly, I would say that there is always a new problem to be solving, whether it's from making our technical work more accessible to a larger audience, to possibly handling crises. The hands-on learning I have had in the organization has helped me grow exponentially and also prepare me for what the next stages of my career will bring. And I would like to end by saying that while working with the UN is indeed a prestigious opportunity, it is also important to know why you would like to work for a specific role and also for a specific agency, because that will really guide you right from the application process to then being a motivated colleague to everyone else when you come into the place of work and champion the cause that you want to be working on in the development space. And with that, I would like to say that I'm happy to answer any questions, and thank you so much.
Thank you, Ms. Akriti Parasar. And thank you to all the panelists for sharing such inspiring and practical insights. May I now request our distinguished speakers and the panel of experts to respond to the selected queries put forward by our young students. The first question is for Mr. Srinivas B. Reddy from ILO. And the question is that what skills exactly the international bodies look for other than qualifications / experiences in a candidate during the recruitment? So Mr. Reddy, over to you for answering this question.
Thank you very much. This is a very good question, and in fact, a number of colleagues have covered it already. First of all, you need to have very strong technical knowledge of the particular domain you are aiming for. So after you are assured that you have strong technical competence, so the set of core skills which are transferable, otherwise known as soft skills. These days, there is a lot of emphasis, obviously, on, for example, some of the soft skills that are in high demand in international organizations or even in the private sector. The very important skill of communicating well. So, communication in international organizations is quite deep and varied. Basic language skills, for example, international languages like English, fluency in English. In addition to fluency in English, probably if we are looking for work in Europe, French language skills, working language, either French or Spanish will be a great advantage. Particularly in Geneva, I have noticed that people with French skills are in definitely preferred compared to only people with English language skills. So an additional language. And these language skills I'm talking about not just only spoken, but also excellent writing, oration, and also communicating through the mails and others. So well-rounded communication skills. Another big skill in demand these days is your ability to connect with a wide ranging of audiences through communication, again, social media skills and writing pieces. So the whole issue of writing skills itself, excellent writing skills, outstanding writing skills will put you in demand. In Europe, we were looking at the skills gaps. In fact, adaptability to change is coming as one of the top skills in demand in Europe because of the changing environment. Similarly, whatever you want to champion, look at from 3 dimensions, the 3Ds, which is the digitalization and the AI. Definitely, this is becoming important for everybody walking the earth, basic digital skills and AI skills. Similarly, look at the dimension of demographic changes, your technical knowledge, looking from a demographic changes point of view and decarbonization point of view. These are the 3Ds, digitalization, demographic changes, and decarbonization, otherwise the greening. So if you have basic skills in understanding green transition, digital transition advanced, and also the demographic changes and its impact on the societies is very, very demanding. Similarly, as I mentioned, the ability to network and mobilize resources, additional resources, funding, resources being funding. If you have an opportunity to work with an NGO or a foundation in your areas of work or in your college or university, mobilizing resources is a good advantage. But please do not undermine the critical importance of your own strength in your technical domain, and create evidence that what are you good at in your technical domain. Either you write or you contribute a journal or you organize something and you collaborate. If possible, if you already collaborate with international organizations, even international NGOs, other intergovernmental organizations, not necessarily UN, but you have many other intergovernmental organizations. So look for experience while being a student in collaborating with any of those agencies. So the skills and practical hands-on experience already will put you at a little higher pedestal when compared to others. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Reddy. Now the second question is for Mr. Garraway. This is regarding the specific roles or the fields that are in high demand in organizations like UN or ILO.
Thank you, Rupeshi, for this question. So specific roles and skills that are in demand in international organizations. This is to some extent what I was getting at with this discussion of the quintet of change, these 5 these 5 areas where we see a need to improve the UN's human capital. So data analysis, this is a big one. I think Arti gave a really good example about how she didn't have the data analysis skills, but she got them from her experience. Being able to visualize data, because I forget who mentioned the ability, I think it was Mr. Reddy, the ability to tell stories is extremely important in making a convincing argument. And one of the best ways to do that with evidence is through data visualization. So being able to summarize complex data in a very short and concise way is critical. Communication skills also are always, and being able to be concise and use we work in very jargon-heavy fields, but in relationship, because the Sustainable Development Goals require a whole of society approach. They require government, they require private sector, they require civil society to work together. We have to be able to explain these technical issues in very concise and specific ways. So those communication skills, I can't overemphasize. And going with that is writing. Writing is really, really critical, and the ability to write concept notes, to write proposals. This gets also to the resource mobilization. Resource mobilization is a very big, important area where, because the UN has been under pressure from budgets, especially from some of the biggest donors, the richest countries are spending less and less on the UN. The ability to mobilize resources from other sources is really important. And then I think, the other thing is I would say having a kind of a policy perspective and being able to offer intellectual leadership. That I think is also really critical, because the work that we do it's not like being a professor in a university. It's really, like I said, we're talking to people who are influential and trying to affect change. And so being able to offer them the perspective of the UN in a way that they can understand and use it to make different choices and put in place policies that will help advance the SDGs, this is also really important. So, I mean, there's lots more I could say, but I'll leave it right here, sir, and thanks again for welcoming us here.
Well, thank you very much. Now, the third question is for Ms. Sukti Das Gupta, which is how to get updates on job opportunities in UN, ILO, and other international organizations. Over to you, Ms. Sukti Das.
So thank you very much. And I think this was already mentioned by colleagues in the first part of the session today. Nowadays, you can get quite detailed information on the job availability in most of the agencies' websites. Like in the ILO, we have ILO jobs. If you go to the ILO website, you can find an ILO jobs link, which will tell you what are the jobs that are being advertised, and look for the junior level jobs, the P2, P3s. But there's also an internship link, which will give you information about when the internship applications are being requested. So it comes, I think, at least 3 times a year for the ILO. And you will have to fill out an online form and then say what are the areas that you're interested in, and then you will be contacted by the office after an initial screening. So I think for students today, the website is really the best option. But then, of course, there's always word of mouth. If you're in India, you can get in touch with the offices that are there. Try to make some contacts and know if they are looking for like consultants, because consultants, at least for the ILO until now, are not always posted online. Those are more issues that you find out through word of mouth and through your networks. So thank you.
Thank you very much, madam. Thank you, experts, for addressing the queries very exhaustively. As we conclude this enriching webinar, I would like to express my gratitude to Honorable Union Minister of Labour and Employment and Youth Affairs and Sports, Honorable Union Minister of State for Labour and Employment and Ministry of Micro, Small and Medium Enterprises, respected Secretary, Labour and Employment, for their guidance and valuable time. I am thankful to the eminent speakers from UN India, ILO and their teams, senior colleagues from UGC, and the Ministry of Labour and Employment, officers and officials of the Ministry of Labour and Employment, whose incredible support resulted in the success of this event. Last but not the least, my thanks, my heartfelt wishes for the young students, young participants who have joined us today. I am confident that the insights shared today would have been of immense value to all the participants. With these words, we conclude today's webinar. Thank you all once again. Thanks a lot.
Your meeting is ended.